In this video, we're going to discuss the present tense in English. But before we do, I just want to spend a few seconds talking about tense. The tense of a verb is determined by when the activity takes place. So tense is about when. So let's put up a quick timeline. The three main tenses are the past tense for activities that took place in the past, the present tense for activities in the present, more about that in a minute, and the future tense for activities that will take place in the future. So in this video, we're going to be talking about how to describe activities that take place in this area of the timeline. You will notice that the part of the timeline highlighted includes some of the past and some of the future. This is a quirk about the present tense. It includes parts of the past and parts of the future. This is a key point to understand before we continue with the video. Okay, let's move our timeline to the top to give ourselves a bit more space. Okay, here is an activity that has taken place in the present, as shown by the red arrow. To describe this activity, we use the following construction: the base form of a verb or the base form of a verb plus s. The base form of a verb is the version that appears in the dictionary. Let's look at some examples. Anteaters prefer termites to ants. So here we have prefer. This is the present tense. It is the base form of the verb to prefer. It's the version you would find in the dictionary if you looked it up. Here is another example. She plays tennis every Saturday. Plays is the present tense. It's the base form plus s. This is the form you use with he, she and it and singular nouns. For everything else, you use the base form. We'll do a little bit more on that in a minute. But look at this. The train arrives in 10 minutes. Arrives. This is the present tense. But it's talking about something in the future. Look at our timeline up here. Remember we said that the present tense also covers some activities that will happen in the future. Well, this is an example. Okay. When you use this construction, you are using the simple present tense. Look at this word here, simple. It doesn't mean that it's easy. In fact, it's far from easy. This is the aspect of the verb, and this is what we're going to talk about next. There are in fact 4 aspects: the simple, the continuous, the perfect, and the perfect continuous. Aspect is part of tense, so we can't talk about a tense without talking about the aspects. The purpose of an aspect is to tell us whether the activity is ongoing or completed. Okay, before we go through these different aspects, there is a big point we need to cover. The simple present tense is not always the base form or the base form plus s. And when I say the base form plus s, there are some spelling rules. Sometimes it's es, and those spelling rules are on the website. The verb to be in the present tense doesn't follow that format. Let's put up some examples. I am thirsty. She is late. The shoes are expensive. You can see here that the words highlighted in yellow, which are the verb to be in the present tense, do not follow the format that we've just covered. But it's a very important verb, so let's go through it. You will know it goes I am, you are, he, she and it is. We are, you are, they are. The verb to be is going to be used in some of the other aspects, so it's worth us going through it. And if you're now thinking that English is difficult because the verb to be has 2 changes in it, then really you should be thinking how lucky you are, because in most other languages there would be 6 changes. For example, here in Spanish you would have estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis, and están. But we're not doing Spanish. We only have 2 changes in English. Am for the I version and is for the he, she, and it. Everything else is are. So it's easier than most other languages. The other important verb we need to talk about is the verb to have. And that is have everywhere, apart from the he, she, and it version, which is has. So it's a little bit different to the construction that we've spoken about. Okay, let's get rid of that. So, the simple present tense is used for facts and habits. She is tall. That is a fact. She plays tennis on a Saturday. That's a habit. It's also used for a scheduled event in the future. Remember our example. The train arrives in 10 minutes. Okay, that's enough about the simple aspect, or the simple present tense. Let's keep going. Next we've got the continuous aspect. So we're going to be talking about the present continuous tense. Look at the arrows at the top. These tell us that the present continuous tense is used for an ongoing activity in the present or a scheduled event in the future, much like the simple present tense. Okay, let's go through it. The construction is am, is, or are plus the present participle. Now the present participle is the form of the verb that ends ing. This will make more sense when we have a look at some examples. Here is our first example. They are painting the fence. That's an example of the present continuous tense. I am not afraid of storms, for I am learning how to sail my ship. Am learning. An example of the present continuous tense. We are moving to New Zealand in September. Are moving. An example of the present continuous tense. Notice that this one is talking about a scheduled event in the future. And the other two are talking about ongoing activities in the present. Okay, so when we use this construction, we're talking about the present continuous tense. Remember, this is the word that tells us the aspect. It tells us that it's about an ongoing activity. But remember, it can also be used for scheduled events in the future. Nobody said this was easy. Let's summarize the present continuous tense. It's used for an ongoing activity in the present or for a scheduled event in the future. Let's keep going. Next we have the perfect aspect. So, the present perfect tense. Look at the arrow. This is used for a completed activity that began in the past. Often the activity continues into the present. Let's look at the construction. It's have or has plus the past participle. Now the past participle is a little bit more difficult to form than the present participle because there are various endings. The most common endings are ed, d, t, or n, and we have a whole lesson on the website about past participles. Let's look at some examples. I have played for this team before. Have played. Present perfect tense. Rex has eaten the beef pie. Has eaten. Present perfect tense. Don't take the wrong side of an argument because your opponent has taken the right side. Has taken. Present perfect tense. So when we use this construction, it's an example of the present perfect tense. Remember, this word tells us the aspect. It tells us that the activity is completed. But as a bit of a quirk, the result or consequence of that activity may continue into the present. So the present perfect tense is used for a completed activity that began in the past. Sometimes the activity continues into the present, but usually it's the result or consequence of that activity that is relevant in the present. Okay, let's keep going. Next, the perfect continuous aspect. Look at the arrows. The present perfect continuous tense is used for an ongoing activity that began in the past and continues into the present. It's also used for an ongoing activity that began in the past but is now finished. The construction we use is has been or have been plus the present participle. Remember, this is the form of the verb that ends ing. She has been taking the wrong medication for years. Has been taking. This is the present perfect continuous tense. I have been working since 5 o'clock this morning. Have been working is the present perfect continuous tense. And you can see in this example, there is a sense that this person is still working, so the activity continues. With the example above, has been taking the wrong medication for years, it could be either, but hopefully that person has now stopped taking the medicine. Both options are possible. Tony has been making sandwiches. Has been making. The present perfect continuous tense. The sense here is that he has stopped making sandwiches now. Okay, when we use this construction, it's an example of the present perfect continuous tense. Remember, it's these words that tell us the aspect. So in summary, the present perfect continuous tense is used for an ongoing activity that began in the past and continues into the present, or for an ongoing activity that began in the past but is now finished. Let's clear that. We have now covered all 4 aspects of the present tense. They are difficult, and they're not always about the present. Remember, we spoke about that at the start. Now you know it's true. It's worth just saying that these 4 aspects that we've spoken about in the present tense also feature in the past tense and future tense. That must mean that in total there are 12 tenses. And there are. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So let's clear the screen. Okay, here are our 3 time frames, and here are our 4 aspects. The tenses that we've spoken about today are the simple present tense, the present continuous tense, the present perfect tense, and the present perfect continuous tense. But just for context, here are the future ones, and here are the past ones. So in total, there are 12 tenses. The 4 that we've spoken about today are these ones. Now, the present tense seems like it should be the easiest tense, but it is by far the most difficult tense in English. On the website, we have a whole lesson on the present tense, and we have videos and tests and lessons for each of the aspects. That's all. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out some of our other videos on grammarmonster.com.